My name is Sue Witmer, and I would like to introduce you to the secretary training for the elementary release times. I have a number of reminders that I would just like to give to you before we get into actually marking the card. I want to encourage you to read your secretary manual. All of the current forms are in that manual, and you can copy those for your release time use. If you read nothing else in the manual, would you please at least read the month-by-month schedule? This will help you be more effective in leading with your coordinator and the teacher. You'll all be on the same page and know what to expect, and you can plan ahead that way. Please report your student numbers and volunteer numbers to your area coordinator on the first Thursday of each month, no matter which day of the week your release time meets. Just a reminder, this number is not an attendance number. This number is an enrollment number. How many students and how many volunteers have you enrolled? And that number should never go down. So when you report those numbers, just please make sure it is not an attendance number, it's an enrollment number. And I would encourage you to train someone else in the secretary role. This ministry that we have at Joyelle is about equipping, and it will be a help to you as well if you equip someone else to do the secretary role. Please be sure you are using the most current forms. All of our forms are available on our website, which is www.joyellegeneration.org. And under release time, there is a tab called Staff Resources. That's where all of our forms are available. Many of our forms are also either in the school coordinator manual or your secretary manual. If you need a form and can't find it either on the website or any of the manuals, excuse me, please let your area coordinator know so that we can get those to you. Invite a friend lessons are written into the curriculum this year. You will need to look ahead to determine when you want to send out your invitations for Invite a Friend. Please use the current form, as I said, that's in your manual to make copies. Just to make you aware, the winter pre-Invite a Friend lesson is the third week after you come back from your Christmas break. So you're going to want to look ahead a little bit for that. Bibles are not given to every student, only those who do not already have one at home. Units may not be taught out of order. This is a little bit of a change from previous years, but please make sure your coordinators and teachers are aware of this as well. Any of your students who drop out, the cards do not have to be sent back to Joyelle. Unless the student has moved, it would be helpful for us to have it, especially if that student enrolls in another release time. If they stay in the school and simply drop out, there is a chance that they will come back to your release time, so you can keep them for that reason. Any spiritual decisions should be reported to Joyelle as soon as possible, and they may be emailed to us. But please do not send hard copies if you've already emailed them to us. Also, please be diligent in reporting to your area coordinator what awards you need at least 1 week in advance of your award week. Each area coordinator is given a supply of awards, and if they need more, they will contact Joyelle. Please keep in mind that this is the first year that we have started using the long-term forms. There will be an adjustment period for all of us, and thank you in advance for your patience with this. And the last thing I'd just like to remind you of is our Energizer Retreat. Please encourage participation in your release time. Ask if there are any of your students who've ever attended camp or retreat before, and have them share their positive experience of being here. Many times we hear volunteers say that there's not enough time to spend with students. You have the opportunity of coming as well and bringing a group of your students from release time. That's a great opportunity to spend time with them and to really get to know them and pour into them more. Now let's get into the actual training of the card. There will be no unit verse cards this year. Bonus cards 2 through 12 are still available if you need them, and you will have 10 Commandments, books of the Bible cards as well. There are 3 records for tracking student points this year. I'm going to begin with the student verse card. There will be 2 different student verse sheets this release time year. The first half of the year, the sheet is yellow. This sheet has all of the verses for the first half from top to bottom, and it also has bonus verses 1 written out on the back for each of the students. This sheet is given to each student, like I said, at the beginning of the release time year, and they will use it the entire first half of the year. They will be given a green sheet after the Christmas break, which will have the second half of the year on it. This sheet is for the students to track their own progress and to take home so that parents know that what their student is working on. It has the step into action as well, and the parent signature will need to be on there. Please encourage your students to hang on to these. Teach them to be responsible in bringing it back each week. This is not something that the listeners should be helping the student with. This is the student's responsibility. If there ever is a discrepancy between this sheet and the listener record, we would prefer that the listener record be the official record that we go by. The one thing that we are missing on our student verse sheet is that we didn't put a place for previous points. So the students don't really know, as we begin this year, they don't really know where they're beginning. I would encourage you to write it in the corner here or here so that the student can add them up as they go along. The next record we're going to work on is the attendance card listener record. This is where the listener will track what the student is doing, their progress. There are instructions for marking this record in your listener packets. You will receive two labels for each student each year. The first label is affixed to this record, and the second label should be affixed to the secretary record. And this label contains all of the pertinent information that for each student that we've given in the past. The label has not changed. The attendance record is recorded on the top, just as it has in the past. You would put an X over when the student is absent, and you would circle the number of the week when the student is present. The student may recite each verse in the unit 3 times. They may not say the same verse more than 1 time per week, and they may only learn 1 verse at release time each week. They may explain each verse 1 time. They may look up each verse 1 time. Any of the verses within the unit may be done anytime during that unit. Students may only say verses that are in the unit that is being taught, or they could say their bonus verses any week as well. The blocks on this card can be marked either with a date or a number, or whatever demarcation the secretary would like them to use, just to designate that it has been done. There are very few spaces that they cannot write in, so basically if a box is empty, the listener knows that the student is allowed to do that task. It is up to the discretion of the secretary as well whether they would like the listeners to do any of the totaling, either of the lines or the unit. There is a grid at the bottom of the listener record for points for the Old Testament, New Testament, 10 Commandments. These can be done for points each year that the student is in release time. Again, it's up to the discretion of the secretary how they would like these points recorded. There is room in the bonus column for them, and if that is where the secretary wants them recorded, that would probably be the easiest, to put a slash across there and then write bonus points and whether they got Old Testament or New Testament points. The back of the listener record is for the second half of the year. All information, points for the Old Testament, the New Testament, 10 Commandments, next bonus verse, and salvation decision will need to be transferred from the front to the back of the card after the Christmas break so that they can start the new year. There again, that is up to the discretion of the secretary whether they transfer the information or the listener transfers the information. This 3-card system was designed so that the secretary would only need to look at the listener record at the end of each unit. The secretary may check the listener record each week if they want to do that. The student verse sheet and the listener record will not be returned to Joyelle at the end of the year. The only record that we get back will be the secretary record. Each release time will also be given a half sheet, a number of these actually, with bonus verses, all of the bonus verses 4 through 12 listed on them. These extra cards can be attached to the listener record, and they can be attached to the student record for any student who is further along than bonus number 3. The secretary record is the card that the secretary alone will work with. And as I've said, the secretary may use discretion as to whether they want to look at the listener record each week or just at the end of the unit. But the secretary record will be the only record that is returned to Joyelle at the end of the release time year. There is a space for you to record previous points right here. And at the end of each unit, record the points for that unit in the appropriate box, add to the previous points if they have any, and put that number right here at the bottom of the grid. At the end of the year, the total for each unit will be put, the total of each unit will be put at the end of the line in this box, and the total points will be put in this box. If the student had previous points, the points from this year and the previous points should be the same total that you get when you add these out. Awards earned and date received are recorded the same way as they've always been, and please be diligent in keeping track of that. You will need to know those numbers for awards whenever you contact your area coordinator. I just wanted to tell you again that our website is www.joyellegeneration.org. You can find all of our forms there, and if you have any questions about any of the secretary things, please get in touch with your area coordinator, and they can get in touch with me if they have questions. Thank you very much. Have a great year.